Okay, everybody, I have a special guest today for the Idiot Quilter Presents. It's an interview with Stephanie from Together We Sew Quilting with Stephanie's Stitches. And I have a feeling for many of you out there, this is not somebody you do not recognize because Stephanie is everywhere. Uh,
Oh,
and actually, to be honest, you were newer for me. I had heard of you. I hadn't really checked things out until I did an interview with Sean and
okay.
heard Sean talk about you as well from
Oh,
the guy who sews. So that's why I thought, yes, definitely, I would love to interview Stephanie. And I just put up today's episode of the Idiot Quilter, and I'm featuring your YouTube channel on that as well. And
oh,
this
thank you.
and this will go up a little bit later after we're finished too, but I will put the link to your YouTube channel in the show notes for this, and they're in the show notes for this week's edition of the Idiot Quilter. So let's get right in with all of this. And I've already said your name, and
Yeah,
I've said the name of your website or your YouTube channel. Do you have a website, by the way?
I do. My website is stephanies-stitches.com. That's where you can find out. I'm a long arm quilter, and I also sell fabric. So that's where you can find out all the information about me there, how to get a quilt long armed, and there's a link to my fabric shop. So yeah, yeah.
Okay, that sounds good. All right. And where approximately are you located physically? Not right
Sure.
now, like, not in your room. You know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I'm in Lorain, Ohio, which is on the southern shores of beautiful Lake Erie. I'm super lucky to live over here. I've lived actually in several spots in the country. I did grow up in Ohio, but I really love it here. Water just speaks to my soul, and so being so close to the lake makes me happy.
Yeah. And Ohio isn't that far from where I live. I'm on the other lake, Lake
Oh,
Ontario. I'm
you're
outside of,
Ontario. Yeah,
yep.
yeah.
And I'm outside of Toronto. So, yeah, I know approximately where you are. So,
Yes, Toronto is just a quick 45-minute plane trip from here, so it's
yeah,
it's fun. Yeah.
yeah, true. So, how long have you been quilting?
So I've been quilting about 16 years. I would say probably seriously quilting though for 8 of those 16 years. Like the first couple years, yeah, I dabbled in it, did some baby quilts, maybe completed 2 or 3 quilts a year. Most months now, I complete at least 3 quilts a month. So
Wow, you're
yeah.
prolific, and I thought I was pretty prolific, but you beat me on that scale. So how did you get started?
So, I've actually been sewing since I was a little girl, since I was, 6 or so years old. My grandmother is a sewer and, or was, she's passed, but don't tell Walter. But she is a garment sewer and I am not. And she showed me how to sew like Barbie clothes and Cabbage Patch Kid clothes, and I never really took to it that much because I don't like the fussiness of that, and I thought that's all sewing was. So I kind of stopped doing it for a while, and she showed me how to crochet. She always wanted me to do something crafty, and so I liked crochet. But in high school, or I guess it was junior high, we had to take home ec classes. And they were like, showed us how to do a mini quilt and pillows. And I was like, oh, there's things other than clothing you can sew.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's I kind of started seeing that there's other things to do. And then my aunt started quilting when I was in high school, and she just produced these beautiful quilts. And but at that time I was like, well, quilting's for old people.
Yes.
And the funny thing is that the age that I am now is probably the age she was then. So that makes me old. So
Well,
that's
not
kind of how I
really.
got into quilting. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you said your grandmother seemed to be a very major influence in your life and your
She
aunt.
was.
Was there anybody else? Like, did your mother sew or
No, my mother is not domestic at all. I'm pretty much the complete opposite of her. I have 4 children. We had a small family growing up. I have a large family. She never cooked. I cook. She never sewed. I sew. So yeah, not really. Actually, my grandmother was the biggest influence. Yeah.
it's funny because I hear that a lot from other quilters too, that usually it seems like it skips a generation
Yeah.
for quilting because my grandmother quilted. but I don't ever remember seeing her quilting. But my mother never did. My mother sewed a little bit, but it was like garments, and it was usually for my youngest sibling, for my sister when
Yeah.
she was a little girl. But that was it. And so yeah, so it seems to skip a generation for some weird reason.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so what's your favorite creation and why? And I'm looking at the one you've got right
Yeah.
behind you. Is that's the one you sent me the pictures of, right?
It is. And this is probably, I was thinking about that question, what your favorite creation is. And this is probably it because this is completely my brainchild. I designed a block. Sean and I, you know Sean real well, and he's a good buddy of mine. He comes on my channel once every 6 weeks or so, and we sew up a block. And he did that beautiful bear paw quilt.
Mhm.
And so we did a bear paw block on my channel. And then the next month, we sewed this block together. And I was like, wow, I really like this. So I turned it into a whole quilt top. I've been looking for a long time for a pattern that worked with the ombre fabrics because I really have admired the ombre fabrics for a long time, but didn't know how to cut them to show the whole color range.
Right.
And so I came up with this block and I was like, okay, if I cut these just right, I can get every color that's in the ombre between the blocks and the points. So I just came up with the block and then I was like, oh, this is good. And I turned it into a whole quilt. And I, designed the quilt and then I quilted it. I am a long arm quilter. I am computerized, but I custom quilted this one and I just love the way it turned out. So I'm really proud of this one.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous quilt. And now seeing it in the backdrop here, I like it even more than the pictures
Aw,
you sent me
thank
of it,
you.
because I think in the way it's looking here, it just really showcases the fabric you use. Now, this is your own pattern. So if somebody wanted to get a hot copy of this, can they?
Yes, they can. It's available in my Etsy shop as a PDF. I don't have it printed. It's just a lot easier for me to do a PDF. And yeah, they can. I've sold lots of them. So that link is also on my website, stephanies-stitches.com. Under the shop, if you go to my shop, it'll take you to my Etsy shop. So yeah.
Okay, great, because I'm really liking this one, and I think
Thank
I'm going to
you.
get
Thank you.
that pattern
And you were
because
talking about flange binding the other day on your
yes.
channel, and this has a flange binding. So
Oh,
I am not a hand binder in any way, shape, or form.
me neither.
And doing a flange binding allows you to make it a little, fancier without having to hand bind. So
Right.
yeah.
So once again, your website is stephaniestitches.com.
Stephanies-stitches.com.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. The dash. Okay.
Yeah.
Make
Yeah.
sure to put that. Is that an underscore or a hyphen?
A hyphen.
A
Yeah.
hyphen. Okay.
Yep.
So I want to put that in the show notes as well for this
Oh,
today.
thank you.
So yeah, that's gorgeous. I love that. And you're a long armor too. I have a long arm as well, but nowhere
Oh,
near as proficient as you. I
oh,
depend on the computerized part
okay.
for it. And that's fine for me because I'm a tech guy. So I get a
Yeah.
big kick out of that. But I just love it. I think it's a wonderful quilt.
Thank
Um,
you.
so what type of quilter would you describe yourself as? What I mean, are you traditional? Are you modern, freeform, experimental, exploratory? How would you characterize yourself?
Well, I definitely do not categorize myself as exploratory or experimental. My brain is very linear, symmetrical. I like to follow patterns, even if it's my own pattern that I've come up with. I feel like my blocks are traditional, but my colors aren't necessarily traditional. So I'm sort of a mix. I like a range of all kinds of things from ombre to Allison Glass, but to Cora Yoder, Lella Boutique. I like all kinds of fabrics, but I definitely put them in traditional blocks. So I guess modern traditional?
But yeah, we'll make up a category
Yeah.
with it. But that sounds about right. Yeah, I would say
Yeah.
so from it. And yeah, I do like the whole like your thought process with that quilt behind you, where you said you want to show off the ombre fabric. And that is a big problem. I love the ombre fabrics too, but
Yeah.
when you start to cut it up, you don't get that effect the same. But you
Yeah. Yeah.
captured it in this pattern very well. So yeah. So I would say yes, you are traditional, but with a modern bend
Yes.
to it. So are you in your work area, and can you describe it?
Sure. I am actually in my work area. Where I'm sitting now is where I sew. I've got some drawers right next to me and keep all my projects in there and a cutting table over here. I kind of have two areas. I'm very, very blessed to have my own sewing dedicated space. And I know a lot of people out there don't. So I know I'm really, really lucky. And I've got quite a large space. So this half of the room is kind of my sewing space. And the other half is where I have my long arm and my shelves with all the bolts of fabric that I sell. So I've kind of got two spaces. This side is carpeted, so this is a little bit more cozy, and that side's hard floors for the long arm. So, yeah.
Oh, is it located in the basement of your house then?
Yes, we have a basement here in Ohio. I know some places don't have basements, and so we finished the basement initially, actually, for our kids to have a playroom. But we found that they really only need a small space. When they had a big playroom, they always stayed in one small space. And I had that small space upstairs was my sewing area, and I kind of outgrew it. And we're like, well, let's just flip flop it, and it worked just fine. So yeah, I'm really lucky that I have this space. So
Yeah, and it sounds like a large space because if you've got a long arm in there as well as everything else,
yeah,
then yeah. So yeah, and you're right. Not everybody has the ability for that. I have a large space too. I'm very lucky for that. But a lot of people just have the dining room table,
yeah.
kind of a thing. But whatever works in your area. The main point is that you're quilting. But it's nice to have a dedicated area for sure.
It sure is. Yeah. And I didn't always have that. I used to have to take my machine down every night and put it away and put all my supplies away. And, I know that lots of people have to do that and you make it work because you love this, you love quilting. But it is really nice now not to have to do all that. So
Yeah, and that can be a real quilt, a real what's the word I want to
I
say?
think it
Not,
suppresses your creativity a little bit.
yeah, that's what I want to say. It really, if you have to lug it all out, set it all up, and then you go, oh, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
It's
Like
just
you're
been,
tired before you get started. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So, um, do you have a favorite tool or tools or techniques that you go
Um,
to all the time?
okay, so favorite tool, there's a two-part question. My favorite tool is probably this little guy right here. This is the Acorn Precision Piecing Pen. I don't know if you've heard of this.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
But
So
tell
this is
us,
my
tell us.
favorite tool. I found this out of a shop in Canada, actually, because this is made in Canada. Sparrow Quilt Company, which I believe went out of business,
Yeah, it did.
unfortunately. But Brady Sparrow showed this on her channel several years ago, and I was like, oh, let me purchase it and try it. I've never gone back. It
Well,
makes your blocks so flat. It's amazing. I won't make a quilt without it. So
yeah,
yeah,
it's a great product. In fact, I love it so much that I buy it by the gallon,
I
literally.
do too. Yeah,
If you've got a stubborn seam that just won't lay down, you give it a little squirt of that or brush it on with the little
absolutely.
whatever they call that little brush, and
Yeah.
it'll lay right down. And they are actually Acorn Precision Piecing. You're right. They are a Canadian company. Sparrow was a distributor, but they're
Mhm.
not the designer of the product. So don't worry,
Right.
people out there, if you're looking for this, yes, you can still get it. You don't have to go through Sparrow. Just do a search, you'll find it. And it is worth getting a hold of. And they have a glue as well,
They
which
do. Yes.
is very, very good if you've got something that's just, you want to get things really exact, and the glue will help. So yeah, they're excellent product.
Yeah.
So do you have a technique?
So I'm pretty much a traditional piecer, but if I had to pick a technique, I really like foundation paper piecing because it's I'm it's very precise. So I do really like that. So yeah.
I've done a little bit of that. I haven't done a lot. I have to admit that I get very much screwed up on the way you put the pieces down, but that's just because once I get going, I'm okay. But I
Yeah.
haven't done it in a while. I've got actually a kit to do a Lone Star using
Oh,
that
nice.
that technique, and I've had it for years, and I haven't attempted it yet. I got to dig it out and do some more because I know paper piecing right now is very much on trend. Everybody is getting into paper
Yes.
piecing. And I mean, it's not a new technique, but for some reason, people are rediscovering it. And I got to get on the bandwagon here as well. So, if you had oh, actually, before I ask this question, I want to ask you, what do you have for sewing machines?
Oh, I'm a Janome girl.
Yay, me too.
So I've got a straight stitch only high speed machine. I have the Janome 1600 PQC. So that's what I mainly piece with. Um, I'm pedal to the metal kind of girl.
You
So
must
I've
be.
got that. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say you must be, because if you produce about 3 quilts in a short amount of time, yeah, you're definitely a metal to the floor there, or pedal to the
Yes.
metal.
And I've got a Janome 3160 that I use for, I do like to make like zipper pouches and tote bags and things like that every now and then. So I have a Janome 3160 for that because it can do zippers and decorative stitches, zigzag, things like that. My daughter has my original machine, which was a Janome Magnolia.
Mm,
She's starting to learn to sew, which is awesome. And then I have the long arm, of course, which is a Grace Unique 21 Pro. So, yeah,
okay. Well, yeah, you're well equipped, no doubt
yeah.
about that. So if you had all the money in the world, is there a
Mhm.
piece of equipment that you would want to invest in?
Well, to be honest with you, like I said, I'm very, very lucky that I have these machines and there's not a whole lot I'm lacking, but it would be really nice if money was no object. I won the lottery tomorrow. I would love to have my own separate she shed.
Yeah, yeah.
That would be great because I do get a lot of, I'm in the basement, so there is a door, but sometimes when I've been filming, I've gotten a lot of mommy, mommy, mommy. And
Mm,
I'm like, oh, you
yeah.
know, then I have to redo the video because you hear little kiddos, but it is what it is. So that might be nice, but it's not a huge thing. That's just,
Well, kids grow up and go away too, so
that's true.
you
They
know,
do. They do.
silence is in your future. So probably with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So changing topic a little bit, have you ever belonged to an in-person group or a design team or an online group that, about that's related to quilting?
Well, yeah, actually, well, first of all, I think YouTube kind of feels like an unofficial guild a little
Yeah,
bit.
true.
I don't know about you, but I get a lot of the same subscribers coming over and over again to my lives and to my videos. So I feel like even though I haven't met most of them in person, that I know a lot of them just through the interaction. So that sort of feels like a little bit of a guild, but I actually belong to a local guild here in my county, Lorain County Peacemakers. We've got about 100 members, so it's really fun. There's some really amazing, lovely women, and it took me a long time to join because I am definitely more shy and reserved. So it took me a while. Like I think I followed the group on Facebook for about 2 years before I took the plunge and got out of my comfort zone and went to the first meeting, and I was hooked. We have each month we have an in-person meeting, and we have either a speaker or a teacher, and I've actually been one of the speakers that come in and either give a trunk show or talk about their shop, or sometimes they'll teach us a new technique. So it's really great. I love it because there's not a lot, I don't have a lot of friends who quilt in my area, so joining that, I got to be part of a group of ladies who are all passionate about quilting. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think too with when we first got into the COVID situation, Zoom was a godsend for
Oh
that
yes.
kind of thing. I really got involved with a lot of different groups through Zoom, and just like you, I have my own subscribers, and I provide once a month a get together kind of a thing. And even though I haven't met these people physically, they
Mhm.
do feel like my friends because we
Yes.
share that common interest. And just like you, I don't know anybody else in my area that, well, I used to belong to a guild, but that's a story for another day. I don't anymore. Um,
Yeah.
but I haven't found a lot of other people, you can call up and say, hey, you want to come over and we'll have a sew day or something like that.
Right.
Zoom and online kind of things really fill that gap in for me.
It
Uh,
sure does. And I feel like Zoom, like you said, through this whole pandemic has been a godsend because not only are there more quilters, I feel, since the pandemic, because people bought machines to make masks and now they're going, okay, what else can I do with this machine? But it's allowed us to connect to people in a time where people needed a human connection with people,
yes.
but couldn't physically. So it's been great. I just love it. So
I do
yeah.
too. It has been. So if we're looking for silver linings over the COVID thing, this is one of them.
And I
So
also belong to Sean's Discord group, which is great. I love chatting with everybody in there. I don't get over there too much, but when I can, I love seeing everybody's creations and the links that they post up because they help me find new channels.
yes.
So yeah,
And what we're talking about is the Quilters Co-op on Discord server. And I just did a review of that this morning as well on the Idiot Quilter because I just recently joined it too, and I'm loving it. It is
yeah,
great. There's a wealth of information, a wealth of inspiration, and you really feel like instantly when you get involved with that these people are your friends. And
yes,
it's so much different from something like a Facebook group or something like that. it's
yeah.
it's it's just great. So that's why I felt I needed to review it today and put people. I asked Sean if he minded if I did that, and he said no, go ahead, the more the merrier. So
Well,
I'm
awesome.
hoping more people will go there and join the group. So
Yeah, you brought up the point that it's different than other social media, and it is because other social media like Facebook, I get weird requests
yeah,
from strange people and all, anybody can get a hold of you. Whereas here, it's all quilters. So we get to
yeah,
connect to people who are all share this passion. So
yeah,
that's pretty cool.
yeah, that's what I have found with it too. So
Yeah.
again, changing our focus here a little bit. Where do you get your supplies and materials? Are you an online person? Are you, no, I need to touch the fabric, I go to the brick and mortar stores?
Yeah. Okay. So that's an interesting question because there again, the pandemic changed everything, right?
Mhm.
All of our local quilt shops sort of shut down and you could make an appointment or things like that, but they kind of got in less fabrics, and actually the two shops that were around me have both now since closed, unfortunately. I do, like I said, sell fabrics. I sell Moda fabrics mainly, some Riley Blake. So I buy a lot of things for myself that way.
Right.
But like fabrics that I don't have in my shop, because you can't carry everything when you're a small shop, but like Cafe and Allison Glass and things like that, I do find them online. And the good thing about those brands is I feel like I can trust the quality.
Yes.
So I don't mind buying them online. So yeah, I mostly shop online now. The closest good quilt shops are, we have a big Amish population here in Ohio, and there's a big shopping area in one of the Amish communities, but it's about 2 hours away. So I have a retreat there every spring in that area. So I'll go and do some shopping then. But for the most part, I either shop from my own shop or purchase online. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I think there are some people that have an aversion to buying online because they want to feel the fabric, they want to
yeah,
see the fabric, and they don't, again, it's the quality. But if you stick, I have found if you stick to the big names in there, you know what the quality is going to be like,
yeah,
and you're not going to be disappointed. So yeah, I buy a lot of my fabric online too. But we have
yeah,
a couple of quilt stores in my area, and we're lucky. And there's one in particular that I go to all the time because I just like going in and seeing the shelves of fabric.
yeah.
It's very inspiring in colors and stuff. Whereas I can't really, you can see them online, but it's just not quite the same. But
Not the
I do
same.
buy a
Yeah.
lot online. So,
Yeah.
do you have any favorite experts or, YouTube channels or people that you turn to when you want inspiration or you need to learn something new?
That's a great question. And actually, that has changed over the years. It's evolved for me. When I first started quilting, it was the bigger names like Jenny Doan and people like that. As I've gone on, I've realized that their videos are great, but they're not necessarily for a beginner because they're very, very polished, which is fine.
Yeah,
But I feel like they don't show you that it's okay to make a mistake or how to fix a mistake.
right.
And so I started finding smaller YouTube channels and more regular, everyday people like myself that are doing this because they have the passion for it, they love it, and they're not afraid to show you, like, oh, I got to seam rip that.
Yep,
So I
exactly.
think more towards those type of people now.
And that's one reason why I started my channel and called myself the Idiot Quilter, because I've only been quilting for 5 years and I was making, and I still do make lots of mistakes. And as you said, My videos are not polished. If I've made the mistake, I show you I've made the mistake, what I did, why I was an idiot, and how I corrected the problem
Yeah.
as well. And I do enjoy, and that's why I do these interviews, because I don't want Jenny Dones. I mean, I love Jenny Doan, don't get
Yeah.
me wrong, and that it, Donna Jordan and Angela Walters and all the big names, but
Yeah.
that's just it. They are the big names, they are polished. I want the smaller people out there that and hoping to expose out there other people's YouTube channels that, don't have 100,000 views
Yeah.
on every video because there's
No,
so much.
absolutely. And I've seen one of those big people throw out a whole block because it was an eighth of an inch off. And I'm just like, why? You can just fix that in the seam allowance. Like
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
so
Like, and sometimes too, the big names out there on YouTube are intimidating to a beginner quilter.
yeah,
They'll compare themselves to them and go, well, I'll never
yes.
be able to do that. I might as well not even start. And I don't think that's a good attitude to have. So,
Not at all. And I tell people all the time, don't compare yourself to them. You're in a different place in your journey. And what you're looking for is not perfection. You're looking for progress, progress over perfection. If you
exactly.
can see yourself making progress, that's all you need. You don't need to be perfect. And I don't know about you, but I don't know one quilter, even somebody who's been quilting for 5, 10, 20 years that says, oh, look at my quilt, it's perfect. I've never known one. I've only known quilters that are like, see that right there? I made that mistake and I can't
Yeah.
even see it, you know?
And as quilters, we are our own worst critics.
Oh,
You know, we
absolutely.
don't need quilt police. We are the quilt police to
Absolutely.
ourselves. With
That's
that,
right. So I don't like people who act like the quilt police because,
no.
like you said, we are our own quilt police. We don't need somebody else.
And it takes the joy out of it. I mean, I
Yes.
enjoy the journey. When
Yeah.
I'm done a quilt, it sits somewhere else in the room waiting to be given somewhere or put somewhere, and I'm done with it. I'm moving on to the next project. It's the journey, not so much the end product that I'm interested in all of this. So, do you have any challenges or goals for the future in terms of projects you might like to do? Or
Well, the main goals I have right now is number one, start sewing up some more things for my stash because I've got quite a few projects. And number two, I love to paper piece. I don't do a whole lot of it though because in the time I can paper piece one block, I can have 10 traditional blocks done.
sure.
It does take a little bit longer, but I do want to do a Judy Niemeyer quilt eventually. So yeah,
Yeah, same as me. In fact,
yeah,
I have one of her patterns sitting on my vision board,
yeah,
been there for quite a while. And every now and then I look and go, I should really get started on that. But
yes,
then I think, well, maybe I'm not ready for that yet. But
yes,
yeah, exactly.
yep,
Well, that's the other thing about quilting that I find. I mean, you're younger than me, but I'm retired. I'm in my 60s. And, I want to keep my brain going because
yeah,
I've watched too many people that once they retire, they sit all day and watch TV and they literally die, you know, both
yeah,
physically and mentally out of all of that. So I don't want to be that. And I think that's what quilting for me gives me. It just keeps my mind going. I keep thinking, what if I could try this and
yeah,
I could try that? And then sometimes you just get to the point where you get overwhelmed too with the ideas and you have to stand back from it and go,
yes,
okay, let's prioritize, shall we,
yeah.
with this. But yeah, that's what I love about the whole process. So I consider all quilters artists. Now,
Mhm.
that's kind of controversial in the art world because there are art snobs who feel that if it's not fine art, if it's not a painting, if you're not working in watercolor or oils, if that quilting and fabric is not an art kind of a thing, it's a craft. And I resent that word craft when it
Yeah.
comes to quilting. So, as an artist yourself, um, how would you describe yourself? Now, this is kind of close to what I asked beginning about the type of quilter, but now I'm just asking you to think a little wider into, the fabric arts kind of thing, if we want to give it a label.
Hmm.
It's a
That's a
hard
little bit
question.
difficult of a question, but to go back to your point, I agree with you as far as being artists because I've gone to quilt shows where literally the quilt looked like a painted picture. I mean, there's some just amazing artists out there in the quilting world, and it is kind of harsh when people say, "Oh, that's just a craft, just a hobby." Like sticking some stuff together, wooden sticks with some Elmer's glue or something.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
But onto the artist myself, I that's a really difficult question. It's hard to answer. But I guess like I said, I'm very symmetrical, very linear. So I think my things are very oh, what's the word I'm looking for? Um I
Geometric.
Geometric, yes. I'm a very geometric type artist. I don't I love looking at other people's abstract quilts or even like applique. I've done applique, but it's not something I tend towards. My brain likes things that are just very linear and very symmetrical and very matchy matchy. So that's kind of the type of artist that I am. Yeah.
Yep, yep, and that there's nothing wrong with that kind of thing. But the whole point that I'm making here is that we are artists.
Yeah.
And in the art community, there's such a variety. Like you said, abstract painters as opposed to people who might do more realistic landscapes or
Yeah.
portraits, things like that. And all of those things are in the quilting community. So, we are part of the artist community as well.
Yeah.
So, we've already mentioned your YouTube channel, but I want to talk about how you got started doing YouTube channel and why you started it up.
Okay, well, actually, several years ago, I was doing some online work for another quilt shop. She was a friend, and I was helping her out a little bit with her Facebook group. And she did a block of the month, and she said, "I'd really love you to sew one of these and show people how to do this block." And she asked several people to do it, and I was like, "Well, how am I going to do that?" And she said, "Well, start a YouTube channel." And here I've definitely come out of my shell quite a bit. I don't even want to look at that video anymore because it was
True.
it was bad. But she asked me to do the Ohio Star block, which is right up my alley, and very linear, very geometrical. And I'm from Ohio, so
So
I
we're
started a channel and did that block, and then I didn't do a whole lot with my channel for quite a while. I actually have a lot of friends in the quilting world that have YouTube channels, so I would pop on their channels and sew with them. And I had several people like, you're an amazing quilter. They would tell me, and you never believe the things people say, but they would say, well, you've got great ideas. Why don't you show us on your own channel? So that kind of pushed me a little bit to do my own channel, and it's helped me really come out of my shell. If you asked me to interview 2 years ago, I would have been like, no, I'm not interesting. I have nothing to talk about.
right.
So yeah, it's really helped. And like I feel like over the last probably 8 months to a year, I've really started making a lot more videos to connect with people. A lot of it because the pandemic, and it'd been a while since I got to really sew with people, and I've really enjoyed it. And now I do all kinds of things. I do a live every Saturday, and I do sew alongs. I write patterns and I give the pattern for free and sew along like a block of the week type thing. And yeah, it's been great.
So when do you sleep?
um Not much. I've been asked that question a lot because we also homeschool our children.
Oh, geez.
And we have a 13-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 4-year-old. And our 5-year-old is autistic, so there's some extra challenges there. But I don't sleep a whole lot. I get about maybe 4 hours of sleep a night, but it's okay. Like you said, the kids will be grown someday, and I won't have that.
Yeah,
And I really enjoy them. And I wait till they go to bed, and I sew a lot then, and I sew early in the morning. So, that for me is fun, and I'd rather sacrifice a little bit of sleep to to do
to
things
do that.
that I love. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
true, true. So now, just as sort of my last question,
sure.
do you have any advice for anyone who might want to get started in quilting in this art form?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm any kind of authority to give advice, but if I did, I've had brand new quilters say to me, "Oh, I really want to make a king size quilt for my bed." No, 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 no.
Yeah,
Don't start with a king size quilt if you want to learn how to quilt. I would say my advice is start with like a package of 5-inch squares, a charm pack. Sew something very small and manageable while you're getting down that 1/4 inch, while you're getting down just the basic techniques, and then sort of slowly move up. Don't start with the king size quilt because you will quit.
Yeah.
Because it's overwhelming. It's too overwhelming to think on that big of a scale when you're a brand new sewer quilter. But just have fun and enjoy the process, like you said. Relax, and like I said before, look for progress. Don't look for perfection. You're not going to be perfect. There's those of us have been sewing for years and years and years, and we still don't consider ourselves perfect. So, yeah, just make it fun, and also realize that you don't need, there's all these specialty rulers and specialty tools, and it can get really expensive really fast. And as you know, the price of fabric has gone up, everything has gone up. You don't have to have the newest and the best. And you need a ruler, you need a mat, a rotary cutter, and a sewing machine, and some fabric and thread, and you're good to go. So
Yep. I think though that is all really sound advice for people
yeah.
too. I think back when I first got started and how yes, I have every ruler going. I bought those all within the first month, pretty much.
Mhm.
And there's only about three that I ever use. And
Right.
yeah, and it can be very, very expensive. All hobbies are.
Yep.
But you got to just take it slow. And I heard you use the word fun.
Yeah.
And really, that's to me, that is the best advice you could give anybody is just have fun with it. Don't get so uptight. Yeah, your first few projects are probably going to be wonky. But you'll learn from that and just keep going. Just enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, why do it? You know?
Right, right.
That's
Yeah,
that's
it's
what it
it's
is.
it's a lot of time and commitment, and if you're not enjoying it, then what's the point? You're just wasting your time, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So just before I say goodbye to you and thank you for all of this, is there any final words you would like to say? Anything that we didn't talk about that you'd like to approach?
Sure, I just wanted to say thank you so much. I was so honored that you emailed me and asked me to come on, and I really, really enjoy your channel. I'm so happy that Sean introduced me to you, and I'm so humbled that you asked me. I'm grateful to be here, so thank you.
Well, you're making me feel very humbled because you agreed to it. So thank
Aw.
you again. It was an excellent interview. And please don't go off the air. I'm going to stop the recording. But just again, I want to thank you so much for this wonderful interview. I can't wait to get it up and have other people see it. And I'm sure many people who may not have known about your YouTube channel are going to know about it now, and they're going to
Aw,
be there as they should be. So, and as I
thank
said, I'm
you.
definitely going to get your pattern for that because I love that quilt. So
Thank you.
thank you again, Stephanie.